then a great deal of, like, a massive amount of thinking, like truly stupendous amount of thinking has gone into sex without purpose, without procreation, which is actually quite a silly action in the absence of procreation. It's a bit silly.
Well,
so why are you doing it? Because it makes the limbic system happy. That's why.
That's why.
But it's pretty absurd, really.
Well, the whole of existence is pretty absurd in some kind of sense.
Yeah. But I mean, this is a lot of computation has gone into how can I do more of that with procreation not even being a factor. This is, I think, a very important area of research by NSFW.
Now, what Musk is touching on here is something fascinating. He's not talking about sex itself, but the drive behind it. The absurdity of spending mental energy on something that, in his words, has no ultimate purpose without reproduction. But there's more to unpack here. Musk subtly alludes to how the limbic system drives human behavior, pleasure for pleasure's sake. This taps into an even broader discussion that's taking the internet by storm: semen retention and its potential benefits. Musk's thoughts align with modern neuroscience when we dive deeper into the effects of constant stimulation, especially the kind provided by pornography and social media. Neuroscientists have long warned about the overstimulation of the brain's dopamine system, which can lead to deadened senses and motivation. We live in a world flooded by superstimuli, things that are exaggerated versions of what we might have encountered naturally. Pornography is a prime example of this. Elon hinted at this in his speech when he talked about how absurd it is to pursue stimulation without any real outcome. According to leading neuroscientists, repeated exposure to highly stimulating content, like pornography, can lead to overstimulation of the dopamine system. Dopamine, the chemical responsible for reward and pleasure, gets released in large quantities. Over time, though, you need more and more to feel the same rush.
And it's a non-trivial technological problem. It's now possible for young men to look at more beautiful nude women in one day than any man has ever seen, prior to 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that any man in history had ever seen. That's not nothing. That's something. And to think that doesn't do anything to you, it's like, no, that likely does something to you. It's all pleasure with no responsibility. That's deadening. It's parasitical in a sense. And I'm not making a value judgment. I mean, it's no wonder the young guys are caught up in this, because it's an unbelievably powerful technology. And so these guys are being blasted by what biologists call super stimuli all the time. So typical porn actress, not the amateurs, but the professionals, have their sexually provocative physical elements exaggerated. And so men are very visual in terms of their sexual processing. And so the guys are pulled into it, and they're pulled into it also by curiosity. But I think that ethically it's not good. And you might say, well, maybe there's nothing wrong with pornography. It's like, well, I don't know, man. Like, have you ever really met a guy who is proud of that? Like, you know what I mean? That makes him feel like, I'm the guy, man. I'm watching pornography and getting off. It's like, what a man. I don't believe anyone feels that. It's an easy out. That's the other thing, what you should be doing is going out and finding someone to have a relationship with. So don't substitute the false for the real, and don't underestimate the utility of deprivation. What do we need to drive us forward to have the adventure of our life? Well, some deprivation. And maybe you need that. You're afraid to approach a woman. Well, you remove part of your drive with pornography. And so now you don't have that sexual urge to overcome that anxiety. And so you stay timid for your entire life.
As Peterson highlights here, pornography, along with other superstimuli, offers an escape that's dangerously addictive. The issue isn't just the immediate pleasure. It's that this pleasure is empty. It lacks the responsibility that comes with real relationships, real connections. So, what can be done?
A few years back, when I started doing some public-facing education, I started getting a lot of questions, especially on YouTube, about pornography and masturbation. And here's my stance on this. I'm a biologist and a neuroscientist, not a psychologist. But what we know for sure is that if an individual repeatedly engages in this circuitry, let's say masturbation and pornography, with increasingly potent forms of stimulation, that are on a screen, a couple of things happen. First of all, what's being reinforced? What's being reinforced is a high dopaminergic response to watching other people engage in sexual behavior, which is very different than being in a first-person sexual experience. Okay, so right there, you know that what's being reinforced is not actually any kind of improvement in communication skills.
Voyeurism.
It's voyeurism too. And here I'm specifically talking about males. I actually don't know the literature on females.
Females don't use visual pornography to the same degree.
I see.
They use literary pornography.
I see. Without getting into a huge discussion about that, the point is this: masturbation and pornography are potently tapping into the dopamine system and can undermine the very processes of what I consider healthy processes of finding a mate, dating, communication. And it turns out abstinence or sex without ejaculation for a week or more will increase testosterone levels up to 400%.
Well, so how do you resensitize yourself in some sense? Well, you stop. And then hopefully you recover. And then you deprive yourself of that outlet, let's say.
Now you might be asking, how do I start this journey of discipline and semen retention? Here are a few simple steps. Set clear goals for yourself. Know why you want to stop indulging in excessive stimulation. Is it to improve relationships, boost motivation, or just become more disciplined? Build a routine. Replace old habits with new, healthier ones. For example, when you feel the urge to watch pornography, switch to physical exercise or learning a new skill. Stay accountable. Find a community of like-minded individuals, either online or in person, who share your goals and can help keep you on track. Practice mindfulness. Meditation can help you become more aware of urges and keep you from falling into old patterns. The benefits of this discipline don't just impact individuals, they ripple out to society. When people focus on real connection instead of fleeting pleasure, relationships become stronger, productivity rises, and ultimately, people live more fulfilling lives. The message here is bigger than just avoiding pornography. It's about reclaiming control over your mind, your body, and your future. So here's the challenge. Take a step back, like Musk humorously suggests, and ask yourself, how much of your energy is being wasted on things that have no real purpose? If you're ready to make a change, start small, but stay committed. Be disciplined. Be intentional. Let's shift from the artificial to the real. It's time to take back control.
Don't forget to subscribe. Like this video if you found it helpful and share it with someone who needs a little motivation.